Hey, good morning, world. How y'all doing out there today? I'm Marcus L. Lewis, and I certainly hope that all is well with you. And I come to you to continue my journey, my life story, my rags to riches story, just to encourage someone, just to inspire someone, and just to motivate someone. Wherein, if you would simply dream big. If you're not going to dream big, I suggest unto you not to dream at all. Because dreaming allows you to walk into the imagination of your mind and see yourself where you are designed to be. And so once you see yourself where you're designed to be, at that particular point, it's up to you to take your future, snatch it into your now, and live it out until it's manifested. And in essence, that's simply called walking by faith and not by sight. Because in your imagination, in your mind, you know exactly where you want to be. Steps down the road. I mean, it could be years down the road, months down the road. But once you visualize in your mind where you want to be, you start living that life as though you're already there. And in essence, it's really called preparations. And I believe that when God has things for us to do in life, he prepares us beforehand. Okay, case in point. When young David was a shepherd boy, one of Jesse's youngest sons, David was out in the field tending the sheep, and there was a prophet that came along looking to anoint Israel's next king. And so he went to Jesse's house, and Jesse had several of his boys to walk before the prophet just to see was either of those men were worthy enough or perhaps were going to be the next anointed king of Israel. Because at this particular time, Saul was the king of Israel, but God was already making provisions for Israel. And so after all of the boys came, the prophet mentioned to Jesse, no, it's not none of these. Certainly you have another son. And so Jesse, he fetches for young David. And as David appeared before the prophet, David was the one who the prophet had come to anoint. What are you saying? Well, I'm glad you asked. What I'm simply saying is that David was already being prepared for the next king of Israel by tending the sheep. So the sheep perhaps can be a symbolic of the Israelites who David would ultimately be leading, be king over. And so as it relates to my own life, as I believe in God, am believing God for greater things in my life. For me, that preparation perhaps came early on in my naval career, being in leadership, leading sailors in the Navy. But little did I know that God was preparing me for something greater. And that time came in 2012. I remember laying on my back, looking up at the ceiling, and the Lord spoke into my heart, into my spirit, and he says, start a church in Norfolk. So me, start a church in Norfolk? Now, perhaps like any other normal individual, you begin to question God, maybe even question the process. And you think about the lack of resources that you don't have. At this particular time, we had already been in Richmond since 2006. So about 6 years apart from beginning pastoring in Richmond. So I'm wondering within myself, start a church. We don't have resources, no building, no church members. How in the world is it going to happen? So I just simply took God at his word and believing that if he's asking me to do it, that he's going to provide me with the necessary provisions in order to do what he has assigned my hand to do. And so in the midst of that, I began to reach out to certain individuals who God had pressed upon my heart to help us get the ministry off of the ground. And every individual that the Lord had compelled me to communicate with, they were overwhelmed with joy and accepted the opportunity to share with us in ministry. And so again, it was the summer of 2012. So August of 2012, there was something that happened in my life that changed the whole trajectory of my life. And it really was a dark point in my life, a dark point wherein my dad passed away in 2012. We're getting ready to start the ministry in 2012. And not only that, I had just enrolled in school, in seminary, to complete my master's degree in divinity. I was overwhelmed. And little did I know, at this particular time, being overwhelmed so much so with the beginning of a new ministry startup, my father passed away, and enrolling in school. I was overwhelmed so much so until I fell into a state of depression. Listen to me. Depression is real. Anxiety is real. Mental health is real. And as strong as I thought I was mentally, after enduring my military experience, being put in situations wherein you just had to do it. But this was a bit overwhelming for me. And so consequently, I started going into to see the doctor and maybe, counseling, getting some help. And one of the things that I found to be an outlet for me, I found to be sort of my sanctuary. And that was simply going to the movies. Winding down whenever there were like new releases to come out. My wife was at work at the time. I would go in the middle of the day, maybe once a week or several times a month, and just look at a movie. And for that hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, depending on the length of the movie, I was in a safe place rather than this dark place, sort of grappling with this depression, knowing that my father had passed away and really grieving with that. And not only that, enrolled into seminary, going to school, dealing with the fact that I can't even concentrate, on my assignments, and talking with the professors at the university, and they sort of depicting that something is wrong. So I had to share with them what I was going through. This was a really dark place in my life. But you know what? We got through that as well. How did I get through that? Well, I got through it, first of all, by trusting and believing that God would ultimately get me past this dark place in my life. And we did. We got through it. But in the midst of all that, while we were going through what we were going through in this very dark place in my life, we never gave up hope. We kept the vision before us, going to church on Sunday morning, preaching to the parishioners, encouraging them. And all the time, I need encouragement myself. But through it all, we made it. So if the Lord would prepare me and equip me to go through things that I had to go through in my life in August of 2012, which was a very dark place in my life, I suspect that somebody's in a dark place right now. But just like the Lord brought me through, he'll bring you through as well. Yes, I believe if God bring you to it, he'll bring you through it. I believe he's equipping you for something greater. He's equipping you for something better. So hang on in there. You be encouraged, because if I did it, you can do too. If I did it, you can do it too. So I want to encourage you to continue to keep your vision and your dreams on the forefront of your mind. Don't give up on your dream. Dream big. If you're not going to dream big, then don't dream at all. And not only when you dream big, think big. I believe if you think big, you'll live a big life. So like the video, share the video, and I'll come back to you on tomorrow with a continuation of this particular segment of the video. So God bless you. Be encouraged until we meet again.